Around 8 p.m. on December 7, 1941, hundreds of Japanese fighter planes attacked the American naval base at Pearl Harbor near Honolulu, Hawaii. The attack lasted just 2 hours, but it was disastrous. The Japanese managed to destroy 20 American naval vessels and almost 200 airplanes. More than 2,000 American soldiers and sailors died in the attack, and another 1,000 were injured. The day after the assault, President Roosevelt asked Congress to declare war on Japan. Congress approved this with just one vote. 3 days later, Japanese allies Germany and Italy also declared war on the United States. More than 2 years into the conflict, America had finally joined World War II. In a time of World War II distress, President Roosevelt, encouraged by officials, authorized the internment of tens of thousands of American citizens of Japanese ancestry and immigrants from Japan. Roosevelt's Executive Order 9066, dated February 19, 1942, gave the military the power to ban any citizen from a 50 to 60-mile wide coastal area stretching from Washington to California and extending into parts of Arizona. The order also authorized transporting these citizens to assembly centers set up and run by the military in California, Arizona, Washington, and Oregon. Although it is not well known, this was also applied to the residents of the United States who had Italian or German ancestry. However, the conditions Japanese Americans had to suffer were worse, uprooting entire communities and targeting citizens as well as immigrants. Over 127,000 United States citizens were imprisoned during World War II, all because of their Japanese ancestry. Despite the lack of any concrete evidence, Japanese Americans were suspected of remaining loyal to their ancestral land. President Roosevelt signed an executive order in February 1942 ordering the relocation of all Americans of Japanese ancestry to concentration camps in the United States. Evacuation orders were posted in Japanese American communities giving instructions on how to comply with the executive order. Many families had to sell their homes, their stores, and most of their belongings. Because of the mad rush to sell, properties and inventories were often sold at a fraction of their true value. Before the camps were completed, many of the evacuees were held in temporary centers. Most interns were Japanese Americans born in the United States. 10 camps were finally completed in 7 western states. Families dined together at communal mess halls, and children were expected to attend school. Adults had the option of working for a salary of $5 per day. The camps were often too cold in the winter and too hot in the summer. The food was mass-produced, army-style grub, and the interns knew that if they tried to flee, armed sentries who stood watch around the clock would shoot them. In Korematsu versus the United States, the Supreme Court justified the executive order as a wartime necessity. When the order was repealed, many found that they could not return to their hometowns. As a result, the interns scattered across the country. In 1988, Congress attempted to apologize for the action by awarding each surviving intern $20,000. On December 17, 1944, the U.S. government issued Public Proclamation No. 21. For the more than 100,000 Japanese, 2/3 which were Japanese Americans with full American citizenship, the horror of internment camps was nearly over. The new policy went into effect in January. A lot of the camps stayed open through the summer as internees relocated once again. The government that had torn them from their jobs, homes, communities, and hauled them to isolated camps in 10 remote locations refused to do more than give them $25 and a train ticket. The war ended, and the Japanese internees were freed and left to rebuild their lives as best they could. The biggest disadvantage they faced was that many had lost their businesses, occupations, and property. Many had struggled to find new homes and jobs. The internment of Japanese Americans stands as an acknowledged injustice.